Hey gang. So we're officially in the swing of the depths of autumn, and I haven't actually worn this yet. I finished making it last year in preparation for autumn, but I didn't finish it for ages and ages. So I'm wearing it now. What do you think? I do need help though of how to style this properly. Like, I have no idea. Like, maybe a scarf, or I have no idea. I need help. I'm wearing like brown trousers. But anyway, today is going to be a chatty one. I've got my squishmallow here with me. I wanted to talk about because I did a video about what's on my reading list, which kind of gives you an idea of what books I like to read. I want to finish my reading goal for this year, which was to read a chapter a day, every day, for the entire year, and see how many books I read by the end of the year. And all of the books I've been reading have been books I haven't read before. So I want to finish that this year. And then in the new year, something I want to do in the new year is just reread all of my most favourite books, because I think it's been long enough. It's been long enough since I've read them. So I feel like a reread is in order. My memory of them is a bit hazy, so it will be a good experience because I won't fully remember everything that's happened. So yeah, it's just going to be me talking about books. So the first one that I want to reread, because both my sister and my mum have now borrowed this and read this. A lot of my friends have also read this and they've been talking about it, and I remember when I first read it, I cried a lot. The Song of Achilles. The Song of Achilles. I feel like everybody knows about this book, but if you don't, it's essentially a Greek mythology inspired story following the story of Achilles and the Trojan War. I don't know why I have this huge copy. I don't really like hardback books, but I think it makes it look longer and bigger than it actually is. Like, the actual paperback book is kind of just the average size of a book. It's so beautifully written. I can't emphasize that enough. It's probably the first book that I read where I was actively taking notes of sentences or phrases that I loved because they were just written so beautifully and in such a clever way. And I'm a sucker for beautifully written books. But also, I love the way that the romance is written, because I'm also very particular about the romance that I read. It's probably important to mention that if you don't know what this book is, it is a gay romance, if that tempts you more to read it. I feel like I'm getting into the whole, first of all, Greek mythology, having started reading Percy Jackson. I don't know how to explain it. I really like the idea of gods and mythology and different types of creatures and what each god does, and like, you know, all of that kind of thing really appeals to me, as well as like historical fiction, like that kind of thing, stuff that could have happened. I don't think I'm describing this very well. I'm really not very articulate when it comes to talking about books and why you should read them, but I'm really gonna try with this video. It's written in first person, which for me is crazy because I really don't like books that are written in first person, but it just kind of emphasizes how well it's written. But it's from the perspective of someone who is in love with Achilles. So it paints Achilles in a different light. Like, it's from the perspective of someone who loves him, and so kind of their perspective of him is tainted. It's really layered. I love reading characters that have a lot of layers and they're complex, almost kind of grey, in a grey area of good and bad, which kind of is a good segue for the next books that I want to read. His Dark Materials trilogy. I almost do an annual rereading of this trilogy. I think maybe it's every other year that I do a reread. It's time. I cannot tell you how much I love the trilogy. And the reason why that's a segue is because the characters in His Dark Materials are also so grey. Like, I think the entire time I was reading the trilogy, I was trying to work out who we were supposed to be rooting for, who we weren't supposed to be rooting for, who we were supposed to dislike, who the villains were. Nobody is exactly one thing or the other. The imagery that it paints is incredible, especially in this one, just because I'm a sucker for snowscapes. Like, really, I don't know. I have a very strong attachment to this trilogy. Alright, it's me. I was having huge brain fog filming this, if you couldn't tell, and I feel like there's lots that's gone unsaid in this video or wasn't worded right, so I just wanted to jump in here and there and fill in the gaps. So to paint a clearer picture of this story, we follow a young teenage girl around the streets of Oxford as she causes mischief with her daemon. She has links with the university there, where her uncle makes an appearance, and her curiosity and intelligence gets her wrapped up into an adventure stretching to the far-off lands of the North, I think is what they call it. There is so much depth, twists and turns in this story. At no point did I feel anything was predictable. The imagery is gorgeous. The characterization and exploration into character relationships is deep and complex. If you love a winding adventure which dips into fantasy and magical elements and has you reading into the subplots and unnamed things, then this book is for you. It's also one where there's a thread of romance, but it's really subtle, and I spent the whole trilogy trying to work out if it was a romance or if they were just really attached to each other. It takes a very well-written straight romance for me to get into it, because I feel like when it comes to men and women getting together in stories, it's either really overdone in a cringe way, it's overdone in an unrealistic way, it's always so cliche, there's always the same phrases being used. It's almost like whenever there's a straight romance, it just kind of feels like I'm reading a Wattpad story. Or it's just very, like, spicy. Like, I like yearning, but I like it in a sense where it doesn't overtake their entire existence. It should be there and it's yearning, but it's not. It doesn't take away from who the character is and what the story is about, if you know what I'm saying. It doesn't overtake the story at all. It doesn't take away from who the character is at all. It never changes who she thinks she is and what she does. It's a really healthy relationship that kind of blossoms in a really delicate way. So I like that. I also really like the aspect of daemons. I usually say daemons. I don't know how it's supposed to be pronounced. In the story, every character in Lyra's universe has a daemon, which is essentially a spirit animal, but you can see them and they're like attached to you invisibly. So you have to go everywhere together and you can talk, and like everyone's is a different animal depending on who they are, etc. And it kind of explains it in such a clear way that touching somebody's daemon is not a thing that anybody does. You don't even think to do it. Emphasizes that really early on to the point where you understand it's an instinct. Like, it's an instinct not to breathe underwater. It's such a deep-rooted instinct that it's not even a thing you think about. You just don't touch somebody else's daemon. And it's just really clever how impactful it is when characters break that. It's something we don't have any shared experience with, but he writes in such a way where you can really feel how the characters might feel when certain things happen to their daemon. Overall, it's good enough for me to want to reread them a lot, which doesn't happen normally. I just really like this trilogy. I feel like I should acknowledge the TV show. I have watched season 1 and 2, and I do think they did a really good job of adapting it into a series. I didn't want to watch the third one just because it's special to me how I envisioned everything that happens in the third book, how I experienced it when I read it. It's almost like I'm territorial of that thing. So if I see somebody else's depiction of everything that happens in that story, I don't want it to taint it for me. But yeah, here's Dark Materials. Moving on. The Name of the Wind. Oh my lord. This changed my life. Even though the past 2 books I've told you about have kind of been fantasy related, this is what really got me into the fantasy genre. And I say this to everyone who asks me if they're trying to get into fantasy, what book I'd recommend. This book. If you want to get into fantasy, this book. I don't even know where to start talking about this. I'm currently reading one of the spin-off books that he wrote about it. This is just a really small spin-off book about one of the side characters who honestly is barely in it, but he is so prominent that I love him already, so I needed to read the spin-off of him without even barely anything about this character, which just shows you how good this writer is with his characterization. Okay, just to give you a bit more, This book is a deep, complex story that has so many subplots, characters, complex magical mechanics, complex characters and relationships. This world is rich with its own lore, though it never spoon feeds. It trusts its readers to piece the world, histories of characters, threads of information together to build everything up, which I adore doing because I'm such an overthinker, so my brain naturally is always reading into things deeply. So I love books that give me the opportunity to do that. The story follows the main character through childhood with the circus, all the way to a university for the magically gifted. If it sounds anything like Harry Potter, it isn't. The way magic works, the way the university works, the way the character himself has to go about life, and the many other things he does along the way makes it so vastly different and much richer a read. It's written for adults in the language, the writing mechanics, everything. Adore this book. Oh my god, I could rant about this book in a good way. A lot. Because I went and read all of the Goodreads reviews about this, and a lot of people seem to be missing the clever thing that he does with his writing. This book is also written in first person, okay? And he is narrating his entire life. So he's kind of old and he's telling the story of his entire life. So the story is told through the character's voice. A lot of people reading this seem to miss that point. They say, I don't like how this writer has written this character because he seems really arrogant. I'm getting huge brain fog right now. Oh my gosh. Me again, just to clarify what I meant because my brain was absolutely failing me at this moment. So basically, readers on Goodreads are saying they don't like the story because everything is an easy fix. Everything that happens plot-wise favours the character. He's loved by everyone, blah, blah, blah. Generally too unrealistic and positive, that kind of thing. The point I'm trying to get across is the author knows that this character isn't that, but because the story is being told by this character, he thinks that about himself, so he's telling it in that way. But we know that that character in reality is not like that because other characters in the story say so or reference it as so it's not actual fact about this character in the universe that he exists in. He is not all of the things that he is painting himself as. And we know this because of the other people that he interacts with, but because the story is being told by him, that's the idea that we are being fed. But people seem to miss that. So what I'm saying is, this writer is so good at characterizing his characters that readers are missing the fact that that is part of the character, if you know what I'm saying. Like, parts of, like, the character are so intricately woven into the writing that you just miss that it's even part of the writing and not just the writer projecting his own ideas about the character. Do you know what I'm saying? This author is amazing at writing stories as though you are in the brain of these characters, not in the author's brain of these characters, if that makes sense. He's really good at glossing over things just enough so that you can read into the subtext, and I love that kind of thing. And that is something else that some of the readers seem to be missing, because one of the other spin-off books is about a side character called Yuri, and a lot of the reviews about that book were people saying, this book is just a really boring story about a girl running around doing random things, and that's it. But that's not it. If you spend time reading into the subtext of things and thinking this story is us getting behind the mind of this character and how she sees the world, you get so much more from his books. If you just read them at face value, but approach them in a way that it's just, I'm reading what the writer has written about this character, it's not going to work. Like, it's such an engaging story, and it makes you think, and it makes you really have to interpret things in your own way. And generally, I just love the thread of the story and where it goes. The only thing that is really depressing about this is that the third one has not come out, and I really don't know if it's ever going to. So there is only 2 plus the short stories that he's released. But even so, I am so attached to this story. I hope you can tell how passionate I am about this story. There are obviously going to be parts of the story that I really hate. Sometimes certain ways that the writer words things, or some things that happen, I think are a bit sleazy, and it is like, okay, yeah, you are letting your own desires seep into the story a bit, and okay, now you've kind of broken the illusion, and I can tell that it's a man writing a fantasy story. Some of it is like that, which you just kind of have to get through, but the rest of it is incredible. So yeah, the Name of the Wind trilogy, there's only 2. The last book that I can think of, maybe I'll think of another one, is I'll Give You the Sun. This isn't fantasy, this is literally just a coming of age romance kind of story, which honestly I would usually never read. But again, it's the writing style, it's the character building. Who knows, maybe on a reread I'll take back everything I said. Maybe it's just something that I needed at the time. But I really love how it's written dual stories, so there's 2 characters and you follow it kind of switches from their POVs. I think it's written in 3rd person, reading Noah's chapter and then Jude's chapter, but at the same time Noah's chapters are in the past and then Jude's chapters are 6 years in the future, but you don't know what happened in those 6 years. It's kind of building up towards something, and then it's the aftermath of something, and it's so like enthralling. You get hooked immediately. I just could not put it down. Something I found with books that switch POVs and storylines and whatever is that I feel like you usually get one that you're much more interested in. You kind of just want to get back to that one, so you're reading the other POVs just to get back to the other POV that you really like. I did not get that in this book. I loved both of them. They were both really intriguing and really well written and stand up on their own. Guys, I really love this book. It's a romance that I actually could stomach. So I just want to reread it, and it's actually been a huge inspiration for the story that I'm writing. I think it wouldn't be as good if it didn't have that 6-year jump. Like, that really adds to the story and kind of has you kind of trying to deduce what's going to happen or what happened in the 6 years or whatever. It's just really thought-provoking. I'll Give You the Sun. It's also a gay romance, just saying. Essentially, this is also just me giving you book recommendations. So please, if you read any of these books in this video, leave me a comment of what you thought. I would really be interested in knowing how you feel about any of these books. I do just also want to say, I'll just show you The Tainted Cup. It's also a trilogy. It's also not finished. However, this trilogy is going to be finished. It's fantasy, but it's murder mystery, which is something I've never read before. I've never read any kind of murder mystery, but the fact that it's fantasy just makes it even better. I feel like you're going to pick up a pattern. It's also really well written. The language is beautiful. It's also got a very, very subtle thread of romance, to the point where I was like, is it or is it not? It's so alluded to that it's never clarified. That's like a lot of things in this one. I really like it when I am given the chance as a reader to deduce things rather than being clarified things immediately, which is kind of how the main character is characterized. You just kind of have to form your own idea of what he's like to other people, because it is told from his POV. Like, it's written in 1st person, but yeah, it is. Maybe I do like 1st person books. The fantasy part of it is, it's also just fed to you like it's normal. Like, it's never over explained. There's never huge chunks of paragraph to get through about the functionality of it in this universe. It's just there, and you just have to pick up the breadcrumbs as you go and piece together how that world looks and what happens in that world and what exists in that world. I just like really intelligently written books where the writer expects their readers to be intelligent and to be able to piece together information, rather than showing, not telling, but then immediately afterwards clarifying what they meant. I don't need that clarification. Just trust that I can put it together. So yeah, this is another one that I would really highly recommend. In fact, the next book I'm going to read once I finish that spin-off book is the next book in this trilogy. I'm going to leave it there. I feel like I've been talking for over half an hour now. I still don't know how I feel about this jumper, to be honest. Like, Can I pull it off? Is it my vibe? Just let me know if you try any of these books on this list, or if you've read any of them, let me know your thoughts. Or leave any recommendations below that you think might fit into this kind of type of book. But that's going to be it for this video. I don't know, I feel like I just needed to give people something different other than just a vlog where I'm doing loads of creating and stuff. Okay, I'll see you next week.